All right, it's now time to talk my favorite sport, cricket, for the first time on this Wednesday edition of the SportsMax Zone. Well, West Indies slumped to their third consecutive series defeat after losing the second T20 against Bangladesh at Arna's Vale in St. Vincent and the Grenadines on Tuesday night. Just like they did in the first T20, the Windies opted to field first, and it seemed to be the right move when the visitors were 88 for 7 with 23 deliveries left in the innings. However, Shamim Hussain produced another crucial cameo, batting at number 10, smashing an unbeaten 17-ball 35 to push Bangladesh to 129 for 7 off their 20 overs. Well, the men in maroon went right back on script in their pursuit of 130 for victory, losing 4 wickets in the power play. Roshan Chase with 32 and Akil Hussain with a runner-ball 31 tried to spark a Windies fight back, but the Caribbean men were eventually dismissed for 102, giving Bangladesh the 27-run win and an assailable 2-0 series lead. Well, Nikhil Uttamchandani, he joins us via Zoom to recap the match. So Nikhil, first of all, Lance introduced you at the top of the show as selfie something? The guy who takes a selfie? what does he mean about that?
I have no idea, Maria. I thought I was coming on to talk about the game. I don't know what selfie. I have no idea.
And I don't know what Lance must be onto something, because he's not somebody like Ricardo to poke fun at people. So,
Jeez,
this is what he was talking about. Nikhil, so I thought you were there doing commentary, but you're there modeling and taking pictures with people?
Ricardo, can you read what's written on that?
No, we don't need to read it.
I think it's important, Nikhil.
Whoa. It was just cool to see in St. Vincent that someone, it was a big fan of the zone and a fan of Ricardo and Maria's commentary and analysis.
Hold on, Nikhil, don't do that. So this is what it says. May be unconventional, but hi, Nikhil. You, me, selfie. I'm a big fan of your analysis commentary, especially on the SportsMax Zone, with the added banter between you, Mariah, plus Ricardo. Oh, my name is spelled with an I, by the way, but I got a smile. That smile is specifically for me,
no,
right?
No, it's for Nikhil. It's actually for Nikhil. The post is about Nikhil. You're lucky that you and I got on it. So, Nikhil, you know what? We're very proud of you. We know the good work that you do. We're just teasing you like we usually do. And we know when we go to Caribbean countries and, our viewers watch the show, they're very, very appreciative. So don't you worry about them. Let's talk the cricket now.
Also, Nikhil, before we talk the cricket, right, I just want you to know that everywhere I go in the Caribbean, the ladies are always asking about you.
Ricardo, let's please talk about the game. Can we please speak about the game? Time is very limited. Please, can we speak about the game?
Thank you, Nikhil. All right. So now you know where I got that information from, Nikhil. But let's talk about this match. West Indies, I think the bowlers did very well, actually, to limit Bangladesh to this score. But, of course, again, the batters failing to, I would say defend a manageable total.
I had so much serious thoughts going through my mind and critical analysis, and then y'all come and start the show with that. Honestly, anyways, I want to say, Maria, I'm glad that all three of you guys are there and I could be here today, because I think it's an important discussion. And you said 3 consecutive T20 International Series losses at the beginning of the show. And I think there's a reoccurring trend. If we think back to 38 for 5 in Dambulla, the Sri Lanka series, 37 for 5 in St. Lucia, the England series, last night, 42 for 5. Obviously, the top order is struggling, and Robin Powell put it well. He was very honest in the post-match presentation and said, we are becoming the old West Indies, where we are making the same mistakes and issues over and over again. And I thought it was well put. And I think it requires a deeper investigation as to why we are not able to sustain periods of high pressure, but also I think the conditions are critical. When the ball is doing a bit in both the pace and the spin department, it seems that the West Indies top 5, top 6 are unable to really mitigate those tough conditions, whereas when it's more placid and flat, like many of the leagues around the world, our batters seem to acclimatize more often. So I don't necessarily know the answer. I'm still trying to figure out and get to the bottom of it. But I think I have a few theories that we can potentially discuss on the show.
Yeah, looking forward to get those theories, Nikhil. One of the bright sparks, though, coming out of this loss is Akil Hossain. He's now jumped to #1 T20 bowler on the international rankings. We saw a lot of intent from him with the bat, 31 of 31 balls. But there comes a point in a cricket match where, it's only so much one batsman can do, especially at the lower order batting, at that number. But I think a lot of effort from him, a lot of intent and good stuff from Akil. He continues to grow and really helps the team.
Yeah, obviously the biggest highlight is that he's gone to #1 in the world. I believe it stands to be corrected, but I believe it's the first time the West Indies have had someone at #1 since Sunil Narine and Samuel Badri swapped places a couple of times back in 2014 and 2016. So it is a huge achievement and a testament to how well he's bowled throughout 2024. He's the second leading wicket taker in all T20s, 3 behind Naveen Ulhaq, and he left today to go to Australia at the Big Bash League, so he could easily finish the year with the most T20 wickets in 2024. So look, he has been a real servant to West Indies cricket. He is such a good new ball bowler, as we all know, and it's been a pleasure to watch him bowl up close and with the skill and deception that he offers.
Yeah, Nikhil, for how long are we going to say in the limited overs game that we cannot set totals, we cannot bat first? Because after the first T20 International, I definitely thought to myself, what if we win the toss for the second one, we'll have a go. We saw how things panned out in game #1. And my thinking was, coming into game #2, the understanding would be maybe, just maybe, the better part of the surface is batting first. And again, West Indies won the toss and they decided to field.
Well, to be honest, the funny thing is, Ricardo, when Akil Hossain bowled the first ball, it turned square. So everyone said, whoa, hold on a minute. This could really be a tricky period for the West Indies. But there was 25 minutes of rain. And I actually felt, and we have Hawkeye and some ball tracking information to back it up, the second innings, the ball did a bit less. So it was almost better for the West Indies to bat. The moisture was so heavy in the outfield because of the rain. There was some dew formation. So I think when they reflect on it, the conditions almost were arguably better for them to bat. And I think whilst the surface had a degree of challenge throughout the 40 overs, you have to give Bangladesh credit for the way they were able to exploit conditions. And it speaks to, obviously, when they bat first, they're exposed to more challenging batting conditions, which is why they've struggled. And in these last 2 games, even though they've chased, the surface hasn't been straightforward. And we're seeing the evidence again of batters being unable to assess. And the approach has been different. They weren't reckless in this game. You could see visual evidence of them trying to consolidate, but still, the Bangladesh bowling was simply too good.
Yeah, were you surprised that someone like a Casey Carty wasn't given an opportunity over, maybe Andre Fletcher?
Massively. When I look at where Fletcher batted in the first game, which was #5, right? And I look at the 2 of their CPLs this year, Fletcher's been very good in the power play and has struggled outside of the power play. Whereas it's been the opposite for Casey Carty. He struggled to get going in the power play. When he came in the middle overs, he struck at 160 and was very good rotating the spin. He's had, obviously, a long time to play cricket, playing the Test Series, the One International Series. And I thought either him or Justin Graves, their skill set in conditions which are challenging, is same with Mahedi Hassan Miraz and how they brought him in Bangladesh last night. I thought one of your longer format batters could have been useful. But again, hindsight is 2020. And I think the keeping decision had something to do with Fletcher playing.
We could have that discussion, but you know what? Nicholas Pooran is a keeper. Johnson Charles has kept.
Yeah, I know Charles has had the knee surgery, so I think maybe that's why he can't keep. I'm not sure about Pooran. I know he was ill going into the first T20I, but he still played. So we would assume that he was at full fitness. So I'm not exactly sure there.
Yeah. On the batting issues, Nikhil, from your standpoint, is it an issue of personnel, meaning we need to make changes, or is it an issue of the players who are there finding form and being able to execute?
Ricardo, I've wrapped my brains all day around this. I don't necessarily think it's personnel because we've seen different guys come in, right? One thing I've been thinking about, and I've asked a few former players, some of my colleagues, it seems like when conditions get challenging, and remember, when we think about the leagues around the world that many West Indians play, it's always very small stadiums, the very placid pitches because we want to see entertainment. I'm thinking is it a case of maybe the West Indian players not trusting their defense, as Ian Bishop said on commentary, not having a capable enough defense? Because in the first game, we thought they were reckless, they weren't smart. But in this game, they were visibly trying to consolidate, and the bowling was simply too good. And when I think about the best players in the world, Travis Head, Surya Kumar Yadav, Joss Butler, who's played over 50 test matches, all of them have a red ball grounding, a longer format grounding. And I'm wondering now more and more if that is the difference between when you get into challenging conditions, still being able to score runs and still being able to chase 129 on a tough night. I don't know. I'm still trying to investigate further, but it's one of the theories that I'm slowly beginning to consider, given the lack of experience in red ball cricket for that top five, and looking at the other players around the world and how well they've done in a variety of conditions.
Well, I guess my follow-up question would be, Nikhil, should we be surprised given the results that we've seen from the red ball team?
Should we be surprised? I don't know how to answer this, Ricardo. I mean, I wouldn't necessarily link the two formats, but what I would say is even getting guys playing first-class cricket where they get to bat time and would have to sustain challenges of batting maybe in a fourth innings, maybe it does make a difference. Again, I'm not sure this is the right way. I'm not saying that if Robin Powell went and played the whole first-class season, or Brandon King, that instantly they would become, world-class or the best T20 batter in the world. But I'm just trying to think, why is it that when conditions get difficult and surfaces are not placid, why is it that the West Indies continuously struggle as a top five and a top five batting unit? So I think it's something that Darren Sammy and Floyd Rifa have to put their heads together and figure out. Because when we get to Sri Lanka in 2026, given what we saw from the pitches there, it's likely that they could easily turn up in Dambulla and the pitch could be turning square. There could be some swing on offer, and we'll have the best bowling attack in the world, well, the best bowlers of each country in the world to face. So it's food for thought. But again, we have time with a year before that World Cup to fix it, but something must be done.
Yeah, and Nikhil, you said a couple of minutes ago that there are a few theories that you have floating around in your mind. I guess you just presented one of them with the issue of no red ball players in the top half of the West Indies batting. May you give us the privilege of hearing a couple of the other theories that you have floating around in your brilliant brain?
Yeah, Lance, again, I think obviously that one for me is paramount in the way I'm thinking about it. Again, I keep saying it that I don't know if this is the way. But another thing I think is we saw a lot of emphasis, and almost in the one-day international format, we are seeing it now where they've improved so much in the middle overs. And I'm wondering if the West Indies have taken a backward step because of, again, this power that they have where Moti and Hossain showed you again last night, how deep that batting lineup is. Have we put less emphasis now on strike rotation, which when Sammy and the West Indies were ranked 9th in the world and Sammy took the job, that was the biggest focus. Let's minimize the dots. Let's get the best players of spin in. But I look at these couple of games, 60 dots. I think last night was again close to 60 or more. Are we forgetting sort of how we've improved and worked our way to number 4 in the world? And again, I know this will seem very critical and negative. I don't want to take away from the work that Darren Sammy and his team have done, because they took the West Indies from 9th till 4th. Months ago, we were talking about them as favourites to win the World Cup. So they are still one of the very best teams in the world. But if we want to win World Cups, like they say the goal is, they want to be number 1 in the world because they want to play good cricket. How can we become the very best? And I think there are a couple of things. Obviously, the death bowling is something we continuously speak about. But in the batting, how can we get better at assessing conditions? And I think still place a focus on spin and also rotation of spin in the middle overs.
Yeah, well, they actually went to number 3 in the world a couple of months ago, but they are now 4. But the jump from 9 to 3 was pretty significant with Darren Sammy's work, who will have the additional duty of being the test coach in a few months into the next year. Would you think that will make his job of getting the white ball team improved any more difficult now that he has more on his plate?
I don't think so, Lance, because I think they know exactly what needs to improve. What I want to see is when guys go off to all the various leagues around the world, and obviously there's no real camps going into bilateral series, how can the West Indies innovate and become smarter at trying to focus on these problems? And with the evidence that we've had, when there's been an issue, probably with the exception of the death bowling, which hasn't really improved in the last 2 years, everything else, the strike rotation in the middle overs, we've seen it get to here. And I think that's one thing Darren Sammy has used the data he's used his analysts and also been able to relay the message to his coaches on the areas of improvement. And it's happening at a good time. We have to remember that they can't win every series, and there's always going to be improvements. I think with 12 months next year, there's a few away series as well, with the West Indies going to Pakistan and New Zealand at the end of the year, I think Bangladesh as well. It's going to be great to see not placid conditions, challenging conditions, and I want to see how Floyd Reefer, Darren Sammy can get the best out of these battles, because I think the personnel, they've developed a good nucleus of players with the Rutherfords and the Hopes who were in this series. How can you get all of them to come together and complement each other, but be able to sustain challenging conditions, given that they play so much franchise cricket around the world? That's what I really want to see in 2025.
Yeah, well, I'm also looking forward to a lot of improvements come 2025. Nikhil, as usual, thank you so much for stopping by on the SportsMax Zone. We enjoyed chatting with you.
1 second, Murray. I want to say, I want to bid you farewell on your vacation. We will suffer because Ricardo will have no one to control him. But I want to wish you all the best and season's greetings to you all.
I want to wish you all the
you.
best around all your fans.
Ricardo, I have no fans, but I'm very grateful that everyone gets behind the SportsMax Zone.
Yeah, thank you so much, Nikhil, and we'll talk again soon. Take care.
Cheers, guys.